want to talk with you today about three simple concepts: excellence, compassion, and service. ECS. Simple. I'm not going to try to convince you to buy anything, and this isn't a pitch for some online course or coaching service. I'm not going to ask for your email address and clog up your inbox with newsletters or free offers that turn out to be something else. It's just about excellence, compassion, and service. It's going to be similar to the music care class I've taught for many years, where we challenge ourselves to connect our lives with our music in innovative ways that strengthen and empower us. I want to discuss excellence, compassion, and service at a very personal level, and for me, that means we use music to help make it clear. As I share these stories with you, my hope is that you'll find a fresh, more personal way for you to practice excellence, compassion, and service. Won't you please join me for our national anthem? Thank you. So why this music? Can't you play something else, Bill? Something less patriotic or less controversial? When I was just a kid, my mom took me to symphony concerts. A lot, especially the youth symphony. I liked the music okay. Yeah, I was that kid. But it was weird because my instrument, well, it's not like there's a whole section of pianos in a symphony orchestra. Back then, a youth symphony always played the Star-Spangled Banner, just like at sports ball events. It was just how those concerts started. I didn't think about it. We stood up when the drum roll started. Today? These days, I'm actually, well, sometimes a lot, embarrassed to be an American. When Colin Kapernick first took a knee during the Star-Spangled Banner in 2016, I was chagrined. How could he disrespect this music, which has been so present in my life for so long? How could he mess with my symbolic musical connection to the greatest country on earth? NFL players at the top of their game, they practice excellence all the time. We musicians strive for that too, practicing the muscle memories and emotional depth that we need to achieve excellence when we perform. It takes years for most of us to become excellent, and it's impossible to strive continuously for that kind of excellence for so long without side effects, both good and bad. The good thing is that practicing excellence in one skill tends to infect other parts of my life. The habitual practice of excellence helps me to be or do my best in as many ways as I can. On the downside, I can be difficult to get along with. Critical, frustrating, demanding, and brusque, especially when I decide something that's outside of my direct influence needs to change. Here's how my practice of excellence affects me. I'm obviously a white male. I grew up at the end of the great civil rights era when much of the world was still giddy from the Second World War and when the Korea and Vietnam conflicts marked the beginning of American imperialism, the age of American embarrassment. It feels like I've been gaslighted by America. While Kaepernick isn't the first to make a symbolic gesture, because of how that gesture was connected to our national anthem, it's had a huge impact on me. What does it mean to me to perform that music now? What does it mean to me, an embarrassed American, to claim that music. It gets deeper. My ancestors were part of the American Revolution. The ugliness and horror of those times, especially the way European immigrants treated Native Americans, is part of my family history, a part of our American history. Such shameful facts just don't disappear. When I play the Star-Spangled Banner, that history comes alive in me. The paradox is that it also feels good to me to know that America thrives on imagination and innovation, and that America has evolved to at least understand some of our past mistakes and hopefully not repeat them. All of this comes up for me now when I hear or play our national anthem. Yes, I agree, it's also a bit militaristic, and that makes it hard for some of us to hear this music too. Part of my job as a musician is being courageous with what I choose to play. The music I love, like the Star-Spangled Banner, tends to get into me with all of this beauty and complexity. So, I want to know, could Kaepernick's gesture and the movement it started be the beginning of a second American Revolution? A revolution against the wrongs America has perpetrated on its own citizens and on the citizens of the world? While we wait for history to answer that question, I can play music that matters, music that reminds us of potential for something better, music that symbolizes an ideal we all hope to be true. If the Star-Spangled Banner is connected to that, isn't this music just as alive in America today as when it was written? Making good music is my talent. Playing great football is Kaepernick's talent. That's where we both strive for excellence, and that practice of excellence makes us want to use our talents to fix what's wrong with America in whatever way we can. It's probably safe to say that those of us who work as volunteers or social entrepreneurs want that too. We want to make an impact to strengthen what's best about America. It's because of people like us that many children learn to read, write, and speak a second language, to have the tools to successfully integrate into and influence America. It's because of people like us that families who might otherwise be left behind are able to thrive. It's because of people like us that folks whose coping skills rely on substance abuse are offered treatment, hope, and non-damaging self-care alternatives. And it's because of people like us that people without doors find a way home. Aren't those great reasons to celebrate being American? Your practice, your perfection of the skills that make those results possible, is a discipline, just like learning and performing music or playing in the NFL is a discipline. Isn't the success we've had, and yes, we have had success, the best evidence that we're really good disciples, can I use that word, of our professional disciplines? Yes, of course we are. I feel we're also courageous in our practice of excellence. It's not easy to work every day to change the world, but you know you have the tools and support to make lives better, and you show up every day to do exactly that. The job is overwhelming. Courage to keep showing up, to do it, is a part of the practice of excellence. Just like playing professional football, or protesting peacefully, or taking a knee, or performing the Star-Spangled Banner. In a sort of symbolic way, America is much bigger than the rocket's red glare. Today's battles are different than the one Francis Scott Key witnessed, but don't we hope to see the flag still flying when we've won? Did you know that the entire first verse of our national anthem, the one we all know, actually asks two important questions? Is the flag we watched last night still there this morning? And does it still wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? This struggle for personal excellence is a struggle with a paradox. This music about our flag reminds us of so much that's wrong, and it's also a symbol of the America that does the right thing, beckons refugees with hope for a new future, reminds all of us in the trenches that America is bigger than its problems, and that Americans, when we respond to war, fire, hurricane, earthquake, or flood, can achieve great change together. I practice and play the Star-Spangled Banner for you because for me today, it's come to mean two things. One, never give up. And two, keep practicing excellence. Here's a song about the iconic American cowboy and his biggest problem. Cowboys in America seemed romantic unless you were one whose dreams got blown up by reality. It wasn't so much that those dreams wouldn't come true, it was more about how America itself evolved. Like many, Desperado tried everything, and everything left him a prisoner to loneliness. He's living the life of a hungry, homeless gambler, sitting on a fence in the rain with no prospects for the future and hardly any will to keep going. I think this song is so popular because each of us sees a bit of ourselves in that cowboy. In spite of following all the rules, there we sit in the rain with our shattered dreams, frustrated chasers of things that were supposed to please us but turned out to be hurtful. When romance and real life come up empty, what do? The answer, which I also think is why we love this song, is compassion. Have you noticed that an outside observer is the one who sings this song for that lonesome cowboy? Maybe it's another person, or maybe it's a voice inside his head, but it's an objective message with a clear forward focus. The observer repeats it twice for emphasis. Why don't you come to your senses? It's a passionate plea. There's a lot of passion in the world, right? We're attracted to the charismatic speaker, the flashy performer, the pizza everyone voted best. Passion is a great way to get attention for your particular brand because bigger and louder has somehow come to also be understood as better. But there are times when bigger and louder passion can't reach the desperado in us. At times like that, we need compassion. And it's one of the best ways we can come to our senses. Compassion means to suffer together. It's related to empathy, the genuine feelings we have for and share with each other, especially in vulnerable times. Isn't compassion at the root of social service and social entrepreneurism? Excellence without compassion can be hollow. Desperado chased the American dream without compassion and came up empty. His prison was walking through this world all alone. Maybe his passion for success disconnected him from what he needed all along, compassion. Do you remember the words to this song? There's a simple lesson in it for how to practice compassion. Here they are. Desperado, why don't you come to your senses? You've been out riding fences for so long now. Oh, you're a hard one, and I know you've got your reasons. These things that are pleasing you have hurt you somehow. Don't you draw the Queen of Diamonds, boy. She'll beat you if she's able. You know the Queen of Hearts is always your best bet. Now it seems to me some fine things have been laid out on your table, but you only want the ones that you can't get. Desperado, oh, you ain't getting no younger. Your pain and your hunger, they're driving you home. And freedom, oh, freedom, well, that's just some people talking. Your prison is walking through this world all alone. Don't your feet get cold in the wintertime? The sky won't snow and the sun won't shine. It's hard to tell the nighttime from the day. You're losing all your highs and lows. Ain't it funny how the feeling goes away? Desperado, why don't you come to your senses? Come down from your fences and open the gate. It may be raining, but there's a rainbow above you. You better let somebody love you before it's too late. Did you hear it? It's fine you're riding that hard and lonely trail to excellence. The fine things you can't get, Bill. So get off the fence already and open the gate. You better let somebody love you before it's too late. Just like the Star-Spangled Banner, this song challenges us to look beyond the obvious and literal and learn what's really going on at a deeper level. And what's really going on is that Desperado has to be compassionate to himself, to come to his senses and actually start to feel what matters before it's too late. There's even a biblical promise rainbow showing him that all the love he needs starts the moment he comes down from the fence he's on and opens the gate to compassion. Do you know any desperados? I've been one. From time to time, it still feels like I'm one. I promise you that if you practice compassion for your own self first, everything changes. Things even change for the other desperados around you. So how do I know that? How can you do that? Maybe a story will help. When I was in college, I took a traveling semester to the United Kingdom with about 20 classmates. We stayed in hostels, universities, houses actually, like the dormitories in Hogwarts, hotels, private homes. We saw everything: Stonehenge, Gothic cathedrals, ruins of abandoned castles, modern London, at least in the 80s, and the Houses of Parliament, the royal residences from Buckingham Palace to Carnarvon in Wales and Holyrood House in Scotland. We visited Shakespeare's birthplace and the Lake District where Beatrix Potter wrote The Tale of Peter Rabbit, and Wordsworth, Shelley, and Keats were inspired to create their masterpieces. It was a transformative 4 months for me. One evening, we were staying at University of Edinburgh in Scotland, and just before I found a grand piano in the common room. From the piano, there was this spectacular 180-degree view of the city. And it just was an ideal place for me to sit for a while and allow music to come, and so that's what I did. I played songs that meant a lot to me and were also part of the culture of England, Scotland, and Wales. Greensleeves, Londonderry Air, God Save the Queen, Amazing Grace, some hymn tunes, Elton John's Your Song. I may even have played Desperado. I guess I was there for about 15 minutes before people started to kind of wander in and hang around. Nobody said anything and no one sang. We were just all there, part of the music, together. Sometimes I have to really concentrate on difficult music to perform it well, but that evening, the music that came to me was just simple, and I was able to be more of a listener. Even though I was at the piano, it felt more like I was sitting with my friends, listening to the music. I was able to experience the musical journey that happened along with them. Now, by that evening, we'd been traveling for about a month, and all of us were a little bit homesick. In America, a presidential election was about to happen, and there was tension in our group. Jimmy Carter or Ronald Reagan. Maybe as a result of that contrast, as it came time to end the music, I wasn't surprised to find myself playing American patriotic songs. The patriotic music shifted the energy in the room. That polarizing force that was between us melted. And as far away from home as we all must have felt, something about our shared Americanness took over. When the music ended, there was a much more common shared emotion in the room. I think it surprised us to look around and see tears on each other's faces, tears which some of us, including me, quickly tried to hide, but it was too late to hide the feelings. Because by that time, you see, compassion had already happened. All of us in that room rediscovered our common connection as Americans, sure, but it went deeper. We rediscovered our shared compassionate humanity. Music just does that. That evening has remained in my mind and heart now for more than 30 years. As a volunteer, I'm in direct contact with military veterans, many of them combat wounded. The seasoned citizens among them have often come from deeper emotional ties with our country than the younger men and women. And I sometimes wonder how veterans from different eras respond to American patriotic music. Does the drafted Vietnam veteran hate the country that put him into harm's way and an impossible no-win situation? Can combat veterans of Iraq and Afghanistan who volunteered for their service separate their job in the military, a job that has never before been done by any American service member, back-to-back deployments, sometimes extending for several years, from the accumulated heavy baggage of America? We have to ask ourselves, what motivates Americans to choose to break things and hurt people in the name of our country at this point in our history? More importantly, I have to ask myself, how can I best use my skills, my music, to engage with military veterans in a transformative way? To everyone in a transformative way. I must bring the practices of excellence and compassion to what I do, or my service is empty and ineffective. But what if my service includes playing music that triggers feelings we don't like, especially about America? Don't we all struggle with compassionate service when we have to break bad news to someone? Maybe Desperado was ready for a little tough love. Don't our kids and students give us plenty of practice doing this? Educators and social workers get college-level instructions in how to do this. Musicians? They don't teach that in music school. You've heard about my struggle with the Star-Spangled Banner, and there are plenty of songs in my repertoire that are a paradox to play these days. My skills and my service often demand that I play music that's difficult to hear, so I've become an expert at doing that, and an expert in revealing what it is like for me to do that. Performing patriotic music in America these days can often be difficult. But it's even more so when there is so much collective anxiety about our country. Much of this traditional music has been co-opted by America haters as too old, too religious, too sexist, too racist, too imperialist. The words to much of it have been derided by some as anti-American or offensive or inappropriate. Then there's the God thing. God shows up often in American patriotic music. It's in the 4th verse of the Star-Spangled Banner twice. May the heaven-rescued land praise the power that hath made and preserved us a nation. And this be our motto, in God is our trust. For comparison, God is also mentioned in the national anthems of the United Kingdom, Mexico, Italy, Turkey, Holland, Sweden, and India, to name just a few. But God is not mentioned in the national anthems of France, Germany, Russia, Poland, Greece, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Spain, Denmark, Austria, Japan, and the Philippines, as well as Israel. China's national anthem doesn't mention God, but it's all about selfless service. I mention these other countries because we Americans are mostly descended from their citizens, people whose lives were so desperate that the hope of a new life in America made them leave their homeland. That's hard to do. This isn't to say that America swings one way or the other on God. The common thread in all these national anthems is service. And while some praise a higher power for the privilege to serve and some do not, it's all okay. When it comes to God, America accepts. America is bound to accept a broad concept of God by the very founding documents that, among other things, guarantee Americans life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Read it, that's what it says. These are correctly called natural rights because America's founders believed they belonged unquestionably to all human beings. That is, natural rights belong to human beings because we have been endowed with them by our Creator. Whatever your particular name for or belief in that Creator may be, even if you don't believe in a higher power, you're guaranteed life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Except that when Kaepernick took a knee, it blurred the line of reverence for me between country and God. At first, I was uncomfortable with intentional disrespect of our flag. But as I started to let the music of our national anthem speak to me, without the bombs and rockets, I heard a quiet voice of protest against injustice. I started to see the honor in Kaepernick's choice, to kneel not for America has been, but for what America ought to be, an America of liberty and justice for all. Now, liberty and justice aren't uniquely American, and they aren't the providence of any particular religious belief. They are, quite simply, best practices that unite people of all beliefs around what's best for all people. Like that evening in Edinburgh, a common sense of shared purpose, shared experience, shared mission, shared excellence, shared compassion, and yes, shared service lives in the songs that have animated America, just as those qualities enliven the music of every national anthem and much of the world's best patriotic music. Think of the songs Proud to be an American or America the Beautiful. This shared patriotic music serves to unite us around our shared cultural values. That's not a bad thing, but it's also a paradox because patriotic songs often make us recall both the good and the bad facts about our country, right? But isn't it the ideals in patriotic music, our hope for the best, that help us serve to transform what's bad into what's better? Performing American patriotic music for me is a reminder of how America is learning to embrace the evolution of our culture and values, and that America continues to struggle, slowly, toward a better place than ever before. For me, that's what it means to serve you in this way. This is how I hold that awareness, without embodying the shame, to own the history without it owning me. Music, particularly American patriotic music, lets me go to that deep place where questions about historical guilt or shame resolve for me with personal vulnerability and integrity. This American music helps me remember that out of great tragedy, America shapes leaders. Some of them blown up combat veterans, some of them professional athletes, some of them people who've been living on the street, some of them people in recovery, some of them social entrepreneurs, some of them ordinary citizens with a heart. These are American leaders I want to follow. Patriotic music helps me focus my service on the country I hope for, not the imperfect place America has been or can be. Music is one of the ways my skills let me stand up alongside you in excellence, compassion, and service in support of all people, natives and immigrants, who are the core of America, with strength to families, hope for those in recovery, and a compassionate welcome home to people without doors. I'm sure there are people like us in other countries with the same hopes and ideals, but here is where I live, and this is the country I love. Let's inspire the world again with what the people who've come home in America can do. I'd like to offer you some of this music now to spark your rededication to the ideals that make Americans great, not the least of them, the liberty to pursue excellence, compassion, and service. My call to action: hear this music deeply. Struggle along with me to learn what it means for you, and find a new depth of excellence and compassion in your service. Perhaps also a new sense of what it means to be in service for liberty and justice for all.